Greetings, everybody. It's Gary Brown with TUG. I want to thank you for attending the Phocas webinar today. We're going to start the presentation off with Jenny Cade Purcell from Phocas. Jenny, please take it away. It's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Gary. And welcome, everyone, to today's webinar, Infor Distribution User Secret Weapon, How to Ensure Business Success with Data Analytics. We really appreciate you making time in your busy day to review the Phocas Data Analytics solution and how it can contribute to the overall success of your business. My name is Jenny Cade, and I'm on the marketing team here at Phocas. I'll be your host for this webinar, and soon I'll be passing it over to Paige Schrock, one of our solutions consultants. I'll skip over some of this housekeeping items. As Gary had already mentioned, it'll be a 45-minute long webinar, and feel free to submit your questions using the GoToWebinar panel. If you're not yet familiar with Phocas, we deliver advanced intelligence and analytics for product-centric businesses in the distribution, manufacturing, and retail industries. We have a pre-built solution for Infor users, making the implementation and user adoption a seamless process. We understand the needs and wants of Infor users like you, so our software is helpful and relevant to the success of your business. The Phocas solution allows users to easily drill down from high-level visuals to the underlying data. You can interrogate your ERP and other data in a way that is quick, easy, and comprehensive. The insights you'll gain will help you make more informed business decisions, leading to the overall success of your organization. Like many distributors and suppliers, your business is made up of a variety of moving parts, an intricate web of processes, and many team members and partners supporting your operations. It's important for companies to ensure that everyone is performing their job duties, while more importantly, working together to contribute to the overall success of the business. And here at Phocas, we believe that we've identified 3 key areas your team needs to focus on to contribute to the business success. The first is improved customer experience. Second is growth, and finally, profitability. Data analytics helps you measure and optimize things like order accuracy, new vendor performance levels, and margin trend analysis. A powerful data analytics solution provides clear insights into these areas and more, putting your business on the path to success. Now I'll be passing it over to Paige for a deeper dive into how data analytics can help Infor distribution users improve the customer experience, grow your business, and maximize profitability. Over to you, Paige.
Okay, thank you, Jenny Cade. As mentioned previously, my name is Paige Schrock, and I am a solutions consultant here at Phocas. Prior to joining Phocas, I spent 10 years in wholesale distribution at a building materials distributor in New York. And most of that was in supply chain and IT. Following that, I was a distribution consultant and worked with dozens of businesses on a wide variety of projects. Given my role today at Phocas as a solutions consultant, I sit right next to the product, and so I'm kind of in a position to both guide the development both of the core product and improve and enhance our solution content. So before we get to the demo, I'd like to double back to something that Jenny Cade had just spoke about, and that's the concept of what drives distributor success. So at Phocas, we've identified 3 key areas, and that's the customer experience, growth, and profitability. I think that for most of us who have spent time in distribution, that there wouldn't be a lot of disagreement about these, but they're helpful as guideposts or objectives for sort of thinking about what we want to be doing to achieve success as a distributor. So we can frame that as a series of questions, right? So what is your customer experience? Do you know what factors might be impacting your customer experience, or do you know how to measure those factors? So customer experience is pretty critical to protecting and extending your market share. It's very, very difficult to grow your share if your existing customers are leaving you in dissatisfaction, or if new customers don't stay around very long because they're unhappy with your service level. So what about growth? Are you aware of not only your biggest opportunities, but also where you might have risks? Could you quickly list those risks and opportunities very, very easily? Growth is key, as if you're not growing your share of the market, or at least keeping up with your competitors, then eventually you'll be outscaled. So maybe you'll be okay for the immediate future, but I don't think anyone would disagree that if you don't have growth, then you're likely opening yourself up to being overtaken by your competition. And finally, profitability. Do you know what you can do today to improve your profitability? Improved profitability is obviously a core objective of every business. For distributors, improved profitability is often tied up in making relatively small changes in highly repeated business processes. For example, strategic price increases can improve margin without risking sales volume. Improved delivery efficiency can cut costs on every truck leaving the warehouse. And guarding against the accumulation of dead inventory can free up cash assets to be used in more profitable areas of your distribution business. So these are our three objectives that we've decided to sort of use as a framework. But why am I really talking about them here today during the demo of a BI tool? Well, it's a fair question. And the answer is that at Phocas, we've undertaken a new effort to create truly meaningful and differentiating solution content, starting with our Infor SX.e package. In short, what we want to do is to help you align every area of your business to meeting those objectives using data analytics. So to that end, we're producing content that will drive these three objectives throughout the businesses. So not only will sales know which customers are at risk, but accounting will know to keep an eye on those customers' AR trends. Purchasing will know where stockouts are and on which products, and the warehouse will know how they're performing against on-time delivery targets. So I'll demonstrate what I mean in a few moments, but it's important to understand how and why we've chosen these three objectives. So Phocas has been working with companies in the U.S. for over 13 years at this point, and so we've got a good bit of experience of what success looks like for distribution users with BI tools. Success for BI users means, to a large degree, clearly defining what and why you're measuring certain aspects of your business and perhaps not others. Sometimes BI providers let users get caught up with the ability to measure everything, and they don't really provide any guidance on what you should be measuring. So that's not what we want your experience to be with Phocas. We want to give you the ability to look at everything while also helping you find what really matters to your business. So when you start using Phocas, we like to say that you'll get it the first 10 minutes and that you'll be competent by the end of the day, and by the end of the week, you're practically an expert. It's that easy to use, and you can quickly move to be a bit more discerning when it comes to what you measure. So we want our experience, or we want to use our experience to get you started down what we've found to be the right path when it comes to measuring your businesses, establishing your critical KPI metrics, and then customizing these measures to meet your unique needs. So these three objectives, customer experience, growth, and profitability, these become the guideposts that help us decide what to measure, and also a rubric to make sure that each functional area of the business is aligned towards overall success. So, in a single sentence, our solution content strategy is that every area of the business, sales, inventory management, operations, finance, should be measuring core KPIs that contribute within their functional roles to the overall success of the business via improved customer experience, optimizing growth, and increasing profitability. That's it. We want every Phocas user, from the purchasing agent to the collections clerk to the VP of sales, to have an out-of-the-box Phocas solution with dashboards, KPIs, alerts, and favorites that put them on the path contributing to these three objectives, and then thereby overall success. Okay, so now that you understand what our objective is at Phocas and the new solution content strategy, it's time to dive into the demo and show you what I mean. So I'm going to go through a few examples for each of these of our three guidepost objectives. So we're going to start with customer experience, and I'm looking currently at my Phocas homepage, and we're going to branch out from here throughout the course of the demo. So thinking about customer experience, it might seem sort of an obvious question, but whose job is it to make sure that your customers have a great experience and that they want to keep you as a key supplier? Well, really, it's everyone's job within your business, right? From outside and counter sales to the accounting department, and in many respects, it comes down even to the truck driver. But it's also the responsibility of people within your business who never even talk to customers. So if I'm a customer, what do I care about most in terms of the experience of dealing with a supplier? Well, one thing that might be at the very top of my list is that I want to get my order on time. So Mr. Customer has his order or has his workers out on the job, and they need the delivery as promised so they can do the work scheduled for that day and complete the job. So let's look at how we measure how we're doing in that aspect of customer experience. So I'm going to go to my customer experience dashboard. This one measures the customer experience in a couple of different ways. Phocas works by doing a nightly upload of your ERP transaction and master record data and then building databases within the application. So what we're doing is we access your invoice line items, your purchase order lines, your AR transactions, your financial transactions, and so on, and then we match them against master records. So products, customers, vendors, and the like. From there, we build out dashboard visualizations as well as alerts and favorites around KPIs and metrics that you want to keep tabs on. So with everything in Phocas, the dashboards are fully customizable on a self-service basis, or our support team can assist you in getting things the way you want them. Key takeaway is that we have a pretty good idea of what to suggest that you look at measuring, but we still recognize that you will always know your business better than us, so we need to give you the control to customize everything the way you want it. So back to the dashboard. The first area at the top of this dashboard is measuring my on-time delivery rate. So for my business, I've committed to my customers that all items I stock will be delivered the next day after the order is placed. In my data analysis, I'm going to define on-time delivery as any delivery where the difference between the date the order was entered and the invoice date was 1 day, or where the dates are the same. So I've told my branch managers that this is the standard that we're going to work toward and that they're going to be measured against this on-time delivery metric. So for the sake of this demo, I've measured it a couple of different ways. So the first gauge there, I want to know how I'm doing in the current month. And this gauge quickly indicates to me how I'm performing against my minimum target of 80% on time. I can kind of see I'm just a hair under that. This gauge is against invoice lines. I can see the on-time lines for my on-time delivery measure. The next gauge here is looking against actual invoice dollars or sales dollars. So I can look at it both ways. On the one hand, I do want to know what proportion of my sales dollars are going out on time. I think that's a pretty good metric from a revenue projection and maybe cash flow point of view. But really, if I'm keeping the customer experience at sort of the front of my mind, I want to measure the actual lines that are going out on time. Odds are that the customer doesn't really care how much the individual widget costs. They want to get the widget on time so that they can complete the job and get paid. So measuring by lines on time might be the more important metric to use. So this in mind, I've measured my performance against on-time lines, both with the current month gauge here, and if I scroll down a little bit, you can see I've got a historical tracking chart, so I can kind of tell how I'm doing and which way I might be trending. So two great things about Phocas dashboards is the first is that they're dynamic, right? So this dashboard is going to update automatically each night when all the data refreshes. Second, I can quickly drill into the data to find out kind of what's going on with these measures. So if I go to my on-time lines gauge, I can click the Analyze button, and it's going to take me to the data behind the dashboard. So you can see when I click the button, it launches a new tab, and it brings me to what we call the Phocas grid. In the center area, you can see records and values. Down the left-hand side, I have a list of dimensions that I can use to display or filter my data. And then across the top, I have various options to quickly manipulate what I'm seeing. And so what I'm looking at currently is the data that I use to create the dashboard KPI that tells me how I'm doing in the current month. So if I step back and I'm this branch manager using Phocas and I'm trying to improve my on-time delivery, what might I do from here? Well, I'm looking at a list of ship-to accounts, but maybe I want to find out if I'm having problems out of a particular warehouse. So I can scroll down on my dimensions. I've got warehouse here as an option, so I'm going to click on that, and it's going to update my view. So now I'm looking at at the on-time measured across the individual warehouses. And so I can see one of my warehouses here, warehouse SPR, looks like they're a little bit lower than many of the others. They're at 61%. So I want to know what's happening. So I'm gonna focus in on just that warehouse. So now I need to think, okay, is it a shipping problem? Is it particular categories of products that I'm not able to get out on time? What's the underlying cause of that warehouse's difficulties? So I'm going to click on my category. And this would be my product category. So now I'm looking at just this one particular warehouse with the on-time delivery metrics for just certain categories. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll down, and I see that refrigeration controls and refrigeration equipment are both like 40% and less of on-time delivery. And that doesn't seem right to me. Like, I kind of intuitively think those should be a lot higher. So I'm going to take a look at those. But I want to know which products it is for these two categories. So I can click on the product dimension, and now I can see the individual products, how they measure up against the on-time deliveries. And I can kind of understand which ones I might be having issues with, and I can do a little bit more investigation to find out what can be done to improve that situation. So this is what I'm talking about when I refer to the ease with which you can learn to use Phocas. Just a few minutes ago, I was looking at a dashboard KPI measuring my on-time deliveries by line. Then I was able to drill down and find out not only which location, but which category of products, and then what individual products might be causing this problem. And so all in a few clicks, I went from a very high-level view to the underlying detail, and I've learned something about my business in the process. Okay, so now I've got some good data about where some of my problems are occurring with on-time delivery. What am I going to do about this? Well, like I said, if I'm a branch manager, I've got a few options. One thing I know I want to do now is check with the warehouse to see if there are any problems with shipping the product out, right? That's kind of an obvious one. But what else? So this is where the idea of customer experience as an objective for all areas of the business come into play. Another contributing factor to having a good customer experience is making sure that I have the right product in stock. So if I've committed to getting stock product to my customers the next day, then obviously I need to make sure that I always have that product available. So this could be the branch manager's responsibility, but it could also easily be the purchasing team or maybe an inventory manager's job. So I'm going to go back to my customer experience dashboard. And if I scroll down a little bit, you see this second section here that's measuring stockouts. So I'm measuring it a couple of different ways. The first thing I want to know, if I'm the person who has responsibility for keeping tabs on stockouts, is how many key items am I out of? So that's the measure that we see here on the left. And honestly, I've got 3,800 items that are stocked out. I've got some really big concerns about what's going on with my inventory. So this is a quick visualization that's giving me the count of how many items I'm out of stock based on where the item has been on more than 3 invoice lines in the last 3 months, because that's how I've defined a priority item. Well, how do I know that? I'm going to click the Analyze button again, the same way I did previously. And it's going to draw me back into the Phocas grid, and I'm going to take a look. So I'm looking at a list of products, and I can see the current on-hand quantity is 0. And then I've got measures for sales dollars and quantity and line count for the last 3 months. So I've put this together using a combination of the Phocas Advanced Search option and custom mode. And I'm able to combine both inventory data and sales data to drill into exactly the products that I need to investigate. So if I click on the Advanced Search button here in the corner, I can see the conditions that I've put in place where the on-hand quantity is equal to 0, but the sales invoice line count for these 3 months that I'm looking at is greater than 3. But I can easily adjust this number if I want to, and I'll get new results. So obviously I've got 3,800 lines to work through. I kind of need to see which are the priority items amongst these. So I'm going to increase this number to 10. I hit apply, and now my data is going to refresh. So that cut the number about in half. So now I've got at least something a little bit more manageable that I can work with. But I still clearly need to get my inventory management act together. I've got 1,800 items where I've sold them more than 10 times in the last 3 months, and I'm currently out of stock. If I click on custom mode up here on the left, I can see how I've defined these particular columns I'd like to see for these products. So in this case, I can see the sales dollars and the quantity and the invoice line count. And maybe I've decided that with these measures and with the filters I've put in place that these really are my priority items. And I want to add this to my customer experience dashboard because these are the items that I want to make sure are in front of me that I can keep track of pretty readily. So I'll click on the chart mode. I'll make the selections I want for this visualization, which I'm going to use the total count, and I'm going to use a traffic light option so it comes up in red so it really catches my attention. And from here, I'm just going to add it directly to the dashboard. Customer experience, I'm going to put it in the Stockouts section, and we'll call it priority items. If I hit save and open, it's going to take me back to my dashboard where you can see I've added my priority items visualization down here at the bottom. Okay, so I've got visualizations up at the top where I've got the sales for the stocked out items, I've got the line count for those stocked out items, and then I also have this new priority items widget that I've added. But if I'm an inventory manager, one of the things that I want to keep track of if I'm really concerned about stockouts is that I want to make sure I catch potential problems before they happen. So you can see in the center section that I've actually taken a small portion of my focus grid and I've put it directly onto my dashboard. So in this case, I'm looking at items where they have less than 2 months supply on hand because I think that I need to keep track of these to make sure that I don't stock out. And you can see how we kind of add all these different visualizations to the dashboard to get a holistic view of what might be problem areas or things that you need to keep an eye on to be able to improve that customer experience. So wrapping up this part of the demonstration, I want you to take away an important concept about what it's like to work with Phocas and the solution content that we provide. When you get Phocas, you'll get dashboards and visualizations and metrics that we think, based on our experience in distribution and working with our customers, make the most sense. But at no point are you locked into just what we think is best. You saw how with only a few clicks, I decided that my stockout metric wasn't using the right threshold. I changed it, and then I added it to my dashboard so I can see my data and measure it the way that I think is best. And that's the power of Phocas. You quickly identify areas of interest or concern, and then you customize your Phocas site the way you want. So I've just shown you some examples of our approach at Phocas with our new solutions to the problem of getting different functional roles within your business, in this case inventory and sales or operations, aligned to the same goal of improving customer experience. So I'm now going to show you some really brief examples of how I might do the same thing with growth opportunities. And I'm going to go back to my Phocas homepage. So again, this lists all the databases, favorites, and dashboards that I have on my site. This can be a very standard template that you design, or it can be customized to individual users. I can see the list of databases that we have in our SX.e solution: warehouse, AP, AR, finance, inventory, purchases, sales, and transfers. But I want to draw your attention to the alert section up here at the top. These are dynamic reports based on certain parameters that you might think are key for your role within the business. And you can see I have my priority stockouts there as an alert, as well as where I had it on my customer experience dashboard. But for right now, I'm interested in growth. So if I'm a salesperson, then definitely growing sales is a huge concern. I want to keep tabs along those lines on 2 metrics. I want to know about declining customers that I might be at risk of losing, and I want to be aware of new customers that may represent an opportunity for growing sales. And you can see that I have both of these alerts here. If I click on the customers declining, it'll take me back to the Phocas grid, and it shows me, in this case, 183 customers whose sales have been declining each of the last 3 months, or each of the last few months, rather. And again, using the advanced search option, I can see how I defined those conditions. But maybe, you know, I'm a sales guy and I'm no dummy, so I'm going to try and do something about these, obviously. But I'm going to start where I can hopefully get the biggest bang for my buck, and that's probably with my biggest customers. So I don't actually want to look at all 183 customers today. Maybe I only want to look at customers who bought over $250,000 from me. So again, in advanced search mode, I can click the measure button, and I can say I want to look at any customers where the sales value is greater than 250,000. So I'm going to hit apply, and the data is going to refresh. And so now, when this comes back up, I'm looking at really these top 11 customers. And so from here, I can now go back to the power of the grid to understand where my decline might be coming from. I can look to see if it's a particular customer type or product category. As we went through previously, I can drill into one or more of these customers and start seeing data for just that customer and match it up against product information or vendor information and so on. So going back to my home page, the other alert that I'm interested in as a sales manager, salesperson, might be new customers. So I'm going to click on that alert. It's going to take me to the grid again. And now I can see the customers who hadn't purchased from me previously, but who just started buying. And again, I can see what items they're buying and maybe what my opportunities are with them, all geared towards growing these sales. So let's say I'm not in sales, but maybe I'm a purchasing manager. How does a purchasing manager contribute to growth? Well, one easy answer is I can keep tabs on new products. So the same with new customers. If I go back to my home screen, I've got a new products alert. I can see I've got 1,950 of those. So if I click on this, again, it takes me into the grid, and I can see which products they are. I can drill in to see which categories of products that these products fall into. And if I want to, I can click on the customers and see which of my customers are purchasing these products that I haven't really sold previously, but have just started to sell in the last few months. So odds are the sales manager might be looking at some of these growing customers as well. And so now we're both on the same page, right? And we can work together to maximize the opportunities for growth that these customers represent, both across the customers themselves and across the new products that they might be purchasing. And so now I'm going to turn to the final objective from our three that we outlined earlier. That's profitability. So there's a certain evolution for most types of businesses, and distribution really is no different. When you're a small distributor, you do everything you can to gain volume. Your goal is to grow and grow, even if it means you're not as profitable as you like, so that you can reach certain economies of scale. Once you mature as a business and you start to reach that scale, now you start to focus on profitability. And the reason you start to shift to profitability in a certain sense is that because of the scale, you're now in a position to make small or subtle changes that, because of your size, have an enormous impact on your profitability. So as with the other objectives, I'm going to look at how we might measure profitability in Phocas from the perspective of a branch manager, maybe a sales manager, as well as the point of view of an inventory manager. I'm going to go back to my home screen, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom where I've got a few favorites outlined. So the first thing I see down there is Deadstock. Almost nothing is as much of a drain on profit or potential profit from an inventory perspective as Deadstock. When I go into this favorite, I can see that I've defined Deadstock as inventory that I've got on hand that has no sales in 12 months. So I have to do something about this. If it comes to it, I'll need to write it off and get it off the books. It does mean taking a loss, which could be helpful if I have a large tax bill coming up, but I'd rather do a little bit better than that tax rate saving, so I might try doing a return to my vendor. So great. Working with my Deadstock list, I can do that pretty quickly. I'm going to view this list by my vendor codes. So again, I'm still looking at Deadstock product, but now I'm looking at it by vendor code. So I'm going to take vendor 34. I'm going to focus in just on this vendor, and I'm going to go back to my list of products. So now I'm looking at only these Deadstock products for that particular vendor. So what I want to do now that I've sort of identified this list of products is I want to send it off to my vendor rep, and I want to see if I can do some kind of inventory return or maybe a stock swap, something to get this dead inventory out of my warehouse. I can click on the export button, and you can see I have a few options here. So if I want, I can send it into a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet, or I can just email it directly to my vendor rep. So this is, again, one of those areas of focus where you can kind of see some of the power of our data analytics solution. You can go directly from gathering a list of records, in this case Deadstock products, to doing something about it, emailing it to my vendor rep to try to do a stock swap. So before Deadstock becomes Deadstock, it starts turning slower and slower. So one of the things I need to do as an inventory manager is to keep an eye on items with low turns. And that's the second favorite that I have outlined here. So I'm going to click on that. Again, takes me to the grid. And using my custom mode, you can see how I've defined the turns calculation as my on-hand value divided by, or I'm sorry, as my cost of goods sold divided by my average on-hand value. And then I display all that information here within my grid. Excuse me. So now I'm going to jump back into the status of a sales manager. Again, thinking about profitability. So what on the sales side can I do to improve profitability? Well, one good option is that I can start keeping track of my margin trends. So if I click on that favorite, now I'm going to be able to see my sales broken down by margin tiers. So since with Phocas, what we're doing is we're looking at line item level transactional data. I can put every single invoice line into the appropriate tier, and then I can see how the totals add up. So this is done in what we call Database Designer. So if I go under Designer mode, you can see kind of how we actually build this database, like what the structure is behind it. And so I'm not going to go through every feature of how this works right now, but I'm going to highlight that as a Phocas power user, I have the ability to quickly add business logic to my databases without having to contract Phocas services to do the work for me. So if you're interested in Database Designer, please schedule a follow-up demo, and we'll show you more about how this area of the product works. So I'm going to go back to my margin trends. I'm a sales manager. I like visualization, so I'm going to take this business logic that I've dropped into the margin tier analysis, and I'll put it back onto my customer experience dashboard. This is something I just want to keep an eye out. So I'll click on my chart option, and I'm going to change to column mode. Excuse me. And I'm going to add this now to my dashboard. Actually, you know what? Let's change this to stacked. So now I can see the breakdown within each one of my margin tiers across each one of my months historically. So I can see which way I may be trending up or down. And again, I can add that to my dashboard very quickly just by clicking that link and then saving it onto the appropriate dashboard. So this brings us to the end of the demo. But before we move on to the question and answer portion, I just have a few comments by way of closing. Today, I described the new approach that Phocas is using towards building solution content for our Phocas users. And that's centered on these three key objectives of customer experience, growth, and profitability. Based on our experience, users can become a bit overwhelmed when trying to decide what to measure. So we're using these three objectives as guideposts in how each area of the business, from sales to purchasing and inventory, accounting, or operations, can contribute to overall success. So using these objectives, we can develop a great set of KPIs that will get users on the right path. At the same time, we're quite aware that every business is different. Every one of our over 1,600 existing Phocas customers is unique. So this is in the front of our minds as we work with you every step of the way and make sure that you have a custom tailored Phocas experience. So if any of the targets or measures that we're using aren't right for you, we've made sure to give you complete control to customize your Phocas site the way you want it. During implementation, you'll get plenty of training both on the basics of how to slice and dice through the data in the Phocas grid, but also on how to use advanced search and custom mode to develop your own reporting and metrics. So I hope you got a lot out of the demo, and I'll turn it back over to Jenny Cade for Q&A.
Thanks, Paige. Now that we've seen the demonstration, it's time to answer some of your questions. Gary, have any questions come in through the questions panel?
Yes, we have one currently, and of course now's a good time to type in any other questions you have, or as I said earlier, feel free to raise your hand. The one question that we have says, concerning inventory, can you display both non-stock on hand and non-stock available?
Yes, that's a really good question, because obviously you really should never have, if you're an inventory manager, you never want to have available non-stock. So one of the things that we could quickly do is use your product categorization to identify which items are your non-stock items, and then do an advanced search to show any that are on hand, and that might, or I'm sorry, that are available. And that might be something that I would do maybe as an alert, so that if I'm an inventory manager, when I come in the day, I want to see in bright red at the top of my home page, okay, I've got $2,000 of available non-stock, and I can click on that right away, see what the products are, and start addressing the issue.
Okay, thank you. No other questions have come in.
Okay, thanks, Gary, and thanks, Paige. This brings us to the conclusion of the webinar. If you'd like to learn more, you can contact us, and we can schedule a personalized demonstration for your business. We also really look forward to seeing you at the upcoming TUG Connects event, so please stop by the Phocas booth at any time during that conference, and we can discuss your business needs, and you can also see an in-person demonstration. Thanks for joining, and thank you, TUG, for hosting us today. You may now disconnect and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Jen Kate.